Hello, and thank you for watching this, our STEM Ambassador in Scotland Week interview. Today we are speaking to Dr. Maryam Gharebaghi, who is a principal process engineer who works with Worley. She's going to be telling you a little bit about the route she took to the job that she's in just now, the studies that she did, and then we'll have some questions that have been sent in by some students from across Scotland. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass over to Maryam to let her tell you a little bit more about herself.
Thank you very much, Heather, and thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be a part of STEM and sharing my journey through engineering and how I got here. I thought it would be good if I start a little bit about myself. I'm born in late 70s when the tank tops were still in fashion, and I was born in Tehran, Iran. I was quite young when I lost my dad. I was around 6. It was sad. Having said that, there is always a silver lining in everything, because I found the best stepdad I could ever wish for when I was 8. In our family, I raised with a younger brother. We had a lot of fun together. One of them was taking care of stray cats in our streets. My mom has always been my role model. She's an architect, and growing up with her and within our family, it was always embedded in me almost, that I always wanted to work and I like to solve and I'll always like to build things. Moving on, when I went to school, I always loved chemistry. I enjoyed the challenges. I enjoyed the interest within the chemistry, how you mix material, how the impact and the effect and the colors. But I always felt I cannot be the chemist. I'm never very good with maths. I cannot stand it very well. At the same time, another topic that I really, really liked was math. And I enjoyed the solving and how you can solve a problem using different ways. But again, I couldn't see myself as a mathematician to be studying pure math, because I've never been patient enough to be able to solve things. So, and that was when I got to the point that I want to do chemical engineering. It's a degree that encompasses both. And that was how I ended up doing this degree, following what I really enjoy to do, what I love to do, and spending time on it. And currently I'm married. I'm living in Aberdeen, northeast of Scotland, and I have a daughter. And following the love of animals, I have 2 dogs. So I traveled also for engineering. It wasn't only studying for it. I traveled far from it. So I started my journey in the home country that I was born. I did my degree there, my bachelor degree, and then I worked in a consultancy company for a while. Then the sunny Cyprus called me. So I moved to Cyprus for 2 years. I did my master degrees there. And then eventually I ended up in Leeds to do a PhD in chemical engineering, which I will talk a little bit more later. And follow on to that, my personal journey to Aberdeen, northeast of Scotland, where I am settled with my family now. And I've been working in oil and gas industry for the past almost 11 years now. So in terms of study, I mentioned that I did the chemical engineering from the beginning, and my postgraduate degree from University of Leeds was mainly in computational fluid dynamics. It was a very good combination of the science and also math, because I was trying to model what is the actual combustion, or the modeling of the coal combustion using the mathematical models, and in order to predict what's going to be next. I was very privileged to receive the Dorothy Hodgkin Postgraduate Award. Those who may not know her, she's a Nobel Prize winning British chemist, and this award was targeted at the students from the developing countries who are willing to undertake a PhD in the UK. So moving on to Aberdeen, and even before that, I'm now a chartered engineer. Chartership is a step that most of the engineers take, because following the graduation and after the first couple of years that we work as a graduate, we gain experience and we get to a level that we can get the job done on our own with a little guidance and supervision. And that's when we apply for chartership, and a chartered engineer has actually been qualified to lead the work and do the work and check the work, and it is internationally recognized. I've been working in both oil and gas and petrochemical industries, and whether in the consulting environment where the problem comes in and we try to solve it, or helping with the offshore campaigns where there is either an issue or there is some preparation for some activities offshore, and also I've been seconded in the client office. So while I am employed by Worley, I've been moving to the client office and become integrated as a part of their team. I've mainly worked in technical roles within the teams with other engineers from other disciplines, or the chemical engineers, same as myself. And recently I've started pursuing the management roles, whether leading a small team of people or bigger groups. While I really love to work in teams and I really enjoy the engagement with the others, I completely appreciate that working solo and working together and quiet working times and the value it can bring to the teams. And as a part of my chartership commitment, I'm a member of the IChemE and also the Combustion Institute. To me, engineer is not the stereotype we hear and we see everywhere. It's not a hard hat. It's not holding a wrench or even being on an offshore platform. To me, whoever has a capacity or the problem-solving mind is an engineer. Whoever is interested to recognizing a problem, trying to find a way and eventually solve it is an engineer. So it is not that anyone should have a very specific talent or capability in certain areas such as math or physics or chemistry is eligible to be an engineer. It's the state of mind that you see a problem and you try to solve it. That's to me, that's an engineer. And one other thing for those people who are listening to this and are female is that there's nothing in being an engineer gender-wise. There had been a number of studies. Precisely, there are differences between men and women, and it is exactly that difference makes it more important that both women and men get involved in the engineering. And there had been studies by universities over 25, 30 years that they show that the teams that incorporate the diverse group of people, gender-wise, race-wise, and other aspect of diversity, they have been the most successful ones. So it means that women and men, they have different approach, and that's what makes them very good to work together in engineering teams. Finally, some personal touch from myself, from the journey I had over these years. Always remember that courage means trying something new. First time I jumped with tandem, I was very scared, but now every time I look back, I feel that was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. In practice, I consider myself as a runner, not a professional runner, but running is something I enjoy as an exercise and as relaxing. I've been running different ways on my own with my little girl, and the picture on the top is when I joined a large number of people and we ran at midnight on the Aberdeen Airport runway. So it is something that I always think that I keep doing it and keep improving in that. That's my goal for it. During my career, during my personal life, I've always benefited from the being with the others, and teamwork has always been the best for me. And anything can be scary the first time. First time I held that snake in my hands, I was absolutely scared. but when you do it, then it's very different. Then you will not forget. And one last advice, whatever you do and whatever path you pursue, always have fun and try to smile. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for that, Maryam. That was really nice, and gave us a great insight into what it is you do and how you got there. I think a couple of points that I picked up on that were really important. The subjects, so that you enjoyed maths and chemistry, but the sort of thinking that you went into then picking your career. So although you really enjoyed those subjects, you had to think about, is it something that you wanted to do practically,
Exactly.
focusing on
Yep.
those subjects. So I think that's something important for our young people to bear in mind. And also, one of the questions that we've got here, but you very much touched on, was the sort of gender bias, particularly in engineering, which I think we're overcoming. I hope. I don't know if you see a better mix now in engineering than when you started.
Yeah, it is. It is. We see changes, and I think it all comes back to education. It's both sides. It is educating our male colleagues or male students that there is differences, and that's what makes it beautiful, and also giving confidence to our female students and graduates and engineers that you can do it. There's nothing, absolutely nothing in engineering that stop a female to do it. You know, there's nothing that is related to gender. So it is a state of mind. As I said, if you have it, then you can do it. Yeah. There's nothing that stops you. And I think it is education. We just have to make sure that we prove ourselves as females and help our male colleagues or male students to understand that that cliche is quite old now. So it's not a man. It is still in some parts. When I go traveling offshore, you always still see a very small proportion. But that's something that may change over the years. That might not completely be to the incapability of females. It might have relations to the personal life sometimes, or personal preferences, which is completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what we've got to remember. I mean, it's a choice thing. So if that's
exactly
somebody's choice not to do that, that's a different thing. So the question that we had, and I think you've covered a lot of that, that obviously there's no reason females shouldn't go into engineering. But one of the questions we received was, have you personally found any difficulties as a female? Have you found barriers because of that, getting jobs or getting into courses or anything like that?
Yeah, in technical perspective, in the university, I never had an issue, to be honest. In the university, it is basically males and females are being treated the same. As well, you are treated based on what you do. You know, it doesn't matter which race you are. In work, I have to be honest, there is still sometimes a little bit of difficulties. I gave the example about offshore trips. The offshore suits are always sized based on males. So it means that when female wears it, it's either looking funny or not practical. It's very heavy, it's very big. The proportions are not right. But I think when I started to do that, there had been campaigns to try to make the sizing based on like sex, to say it is a female size or a male size, because it's not only the difficulty of putting them on and work on them, but it's also a safety matter. You know, if I'm not comfortable in a safety suit, something happens, then I have less chance of survival, you know, on that. So there are difficulties, but I think with the help of with leading females and help of our male colleagues, we are working through them. But it's not something, in my opinion, that should stop people for applying and for joining, because the more we build the let's say the population, the more we're proving that we can do it.
Exactly. Another question that we had, sort of about difficulties and things, it's you've moved about a lot, you've travelled and you've
Mhm.
studied and worked in different places. Have you found that was any sort of barrier, or did you find your qualifications transferred to another countries for our young people who might be looking to travel about? Did you have to do anything extra to sort of convert your qualifications, or were they as recognised sort of across the country, across the world
Yeah,
as an engineer?
yeah, good question. I think same as you mentioned and I mentioned about the degree that you want to do for moving about. It's always good to have a perspective, when you are picking a university or when you are picking an area. Obviously, for me, English is the second language. So every time I moved, I tried to avoid learning another language on top of my mother tongue and English, because it is always easier to study in a language that you're more comfortable with. Obviously, my mother tongue is not being spoken in many countries, so I had to learn English. But I picked countries like UK or like Canada, the countries that I knew that English is the first language to go with. And based on those, I know it was sometimes harder to pick a better university in terms of ranking, but it pays off, because same as I mentioned about chartership, it is all about qualifications, that what we do, not that a degree from one university is less valuable than the others, but sometimes some universities make the entrance harder because their names prove that you are going to be a good engineer, and that's usually the reason for that. However, I found it the least of my problems, to be honest, because the good thing, especially in the UK, is that when someone from other countries come, is an English test. So if you can pass that English test, they usually put you alongside the other English speaker. So that's not something to distinguish you from the others. So that's the least of the problem, to be honest, to have. But it is good to think about it,
Yeah.
before moving. Yeah.
On another subject altogether, from your biography, one of our young people was asking, you mentioned that you did some volunteering work in a shop before you
Yeah.
began your job.
Yeah.
Would you recommend volunteering to help get into a role, or, just to gain skills?
Yeah, that's for me, that volunteering was when I first moved to Aberdeen from Leeds, and I found that very, very useful because it helped me to integrate a little bit with the city, because I lived in Leeds for 4 years. I knew many places. Moving to Scotland, it's not a completely different culture, but each city has a different way of living. So to me, that was the first thing I wanted to do, to let this to know the city more, and the culture in the local culture more. And also, I think volunteering helps to improve many skills. You wouldn't know until you do it. It is not only learning about things. It is mainly the soft skill that we don't learn much about in the university. Preparing some writings or reportings or talking to people, negotiating, avoiding a conflict, all those things. Volunteering can give you that free, basically. And on top of all of that, it's a very rewarding job, because at the end of the day, you feel you helped.
Yeah. As do our STEM ambassadors, who, like yourself, are all volunteers,
Yeah.
who do this and speak to our young people. Um, some questions about the future for you, after you've done all this. So, do you think that you want to travel further, or do you think that you're settled now in Scotland?
I'm always open to change. When you move a couple of times, you're not scared anymore. As I said, everything can be scary first time, but the next time it's easy. I'm still looking for opportunities that can give me that, I would call it a buzz, that I feel like I can learn something more or I can see something more. Especially now I have a child. I would like her to experience, a lot of things before she wants to make up her mind. So while I enjoy living in Scotland, it's not doesn't mean that I'm planning to stay here forever.
Yeah. And you spoke about obviously sort of moving into sort of more management role and things.
Yes.
Another question that came in is, do you have any ambitions job wise? Is there something else that you would like to do in the future? Do you know where you would like to be maybe in the next 5 years or anything?
Yeah, it is definitely. Managerial roles are interesting because most of the people associate managers with someone who's just giving orders, but I don't take it that way. To me, when you have a leadership role, you are there also to prepare the next generation, to teach them, what to do, and pass on the experience. So I look at it that way. So currently the team I'm working with, I always make sure that I have a younger engineer within my team who is exposed to everything, literally every good and bad point of the project, so that they can see what's happening, and they will be prepared that hopefully in the next 3-5 years they can take the space that I was holding, in that time. So I have definitely the ambition. I'm not one of those people. As I said, I'm not patient enough to sit down and just do calculations and do engineering work. So I like to change. I like to move, and leadership and management roles are definitely one part of that. And I see myself moving on, and with the help of other leaders who are helping me so far, I'm pretty sure that I can do that.
Brilliant. That was all the questions that we had for today. I think you've covered brilliantly your role and the opportunities that there are for young people to get into engineering, and the sort of subjects that they might be wanting to look at studying. Do you have any final top tips for anybody interested in becoming an engineer in the future?
It is just talk to engineers, talk to people who are in the business, and they can give you a better view. And just don't talk to one. Talk to different people, different genders, different roles, different places, even people who may not be completely happy. They may give you an insight that change your mind. But as I said, don't worry. Engineers don't need to be Einstein or Marie Curie. We are not. Those are exceptionals. You just need to have the desire and the love for it. That's it. And all the best to whoever wants to pursue engineering.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maryam.
No problem. Thank you.